as India decides in the world's largest election.
We help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
Discover the colors of democracy. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Kurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Iran says it wouldn't need to retaliate if United Nations had condemned strike on Damascus, asserts it won't be hasty. US speaks to Turkey, China, Saudi Arabia on avoiding escalation in West Asia. Israel says prepared and on high alert. Major Russian airstrikes destroy Ukraine's energy system. Putin says had to attack in response to Kyiv strikes. IAEA chief says Zaporizhzhia attacks risk a shift in Ukraine conflict. Amid nuclear and missile threats from North Korea, South Korea, Japan and the United States stage long-planned joint naval exercises involving an American aircraft carrier to ensure readiness. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches out to the masses with his government's achievements on the economic and foreign policy front. In a recent interview, Prime Minister says opposition is certain of its defeat in the general elections. And Asian equities muted as markets weigh Fed interest rate cuts timing. Gold prices hit a record high as geopolitical tensions continue to boost demand for the safe haven metal. In details now, as tension in West Asia escalates, Tehran's envoy to the UN claims that if the UN Security Council had denounced the attack, the imperative for Iran to retaliate for it on its diplomatic compound in Damascus may have been averted. Though Iran has signaled to Washington that it will not act impulsively in response to Israel's attack on its Syrian embassy. Iran will instead attempt to prevent a significant escalation as Tehran presses demands, including a Gaza truce. Reportedly, Iran's message to Washington was conveyed by Iranian Foreign Minister during a visit on Sunday to the Gulf Arab state of Oman, which has often acted as an intermediary between Tehran and Washington. The diplomatic messaging points to a cautious approach by Iran as it weighs how to respond to the April 1st attack in a way that deters Israel from further such actions, but avoids a military escalation that could suck in the United States. Meanwhile, Israel said it has been bracing for possible Iranian retaliation for the killing of a senior general and 6 other Iranian officers in an airstrike in Damascus on the 1st of April.
We are prepared both defensively and offensively in a variety of capacities of the army. An attack from Iran's territory will be solid proof of Iran's intention to escalate in the Middle East and stop hiding behind its proxies.
Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has engaged in talks with his Turkish, Chinese and Saudi Arabian counterparts amid concerns that Iran will strike Israel in retaliation for a strike in Damascus. During the talks, the U.S. has expressed his concern towards the tensions in West Asia and made clear that escalation in the region is not in anyone's interest.
I don't have any calls to announce, but we have been engaged in a series of contacts, not just at his level, but at other levels too, to talk to foreign counterparts to send this very clear message to Iran that they should not escalate this conflict. We continue to be concerned about the risk of escalation in the Middle East, something we have been working to mitigate and contain since the attacks of October 7th, and specifically about the threats made in recent days by Iran against the state of Israel and the Israeli people.
Well, killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh's sons on Wednesday has risked complicating efforts to free hostages still in Gaza, although Hamas clarified that they keep interest of the Palestinian people ahead of everything. Meanwhile, Israel is adding new crossing points to boost the delivery of aid brought in overland from Jordan to Israel's east. Alex Cardia tells us more from Tel Aviv.
Well, that strike, which killed 3 sons of Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas political leader, was decided on without consulting the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister or senior IDF commanders. In fact, the decision was to strike was made on the ground level by field commanders. We understand they saw it as a tactical decision based on intelligence by Shin Bet, the security agency. They say the 3 men were going to conduct acts of terror in central Gaza. No details on what those acts would have been. No response on the allegations that 4 of Ismail Haniyeh's grandchildren were also killed in the strike. And now Ismail Haniyeh has said that Israel is delusional if it thinks that targeting his sons will soften Hamas's position in those tense and ongoing ceasefire negotiations. Clearly still more work to be done there to reach a deal, but also more work to be done on the humanitarian front. The UN Security Council acknowledging that Israel has made some efforts when it comes to allowing more aid into the Gaza Strip, but saying a lot more still needs to be done. We know from Prime Minister Netanyahu, he said the port of Ashdod would be open to humanitarian supplies and the Erez checkpoint in the north of the Gaza Strip would also be opened. We don't know yet if either of those things have happened. We've seen an increase in the number of trucks going in, but aid agencies say those trucks aren't full, and therefore the amount of aid and food and medical supplies that are needed in Gaza still not getting to those who so desperately need it. So some progress on that aid situation, but not nearly enough. Some movement on the ceasefire talks, but no deal yet. Alex Kadia in Tel Aviv, reporting for DD India.
And updates now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russian missiles and drones destroyed a large electricity plant near Kyiv and hit power facilities in several regions of Ukraine on Thursday. A senior official at the company said the major attack completely destroyed the Tripliska coal-powered thermal power plant near the capital. The substations and power generating facilities had been damaged in attacks on the regions of Odessa, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Lviv and Kyiv. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia had been obliged to launch strikes in response to Kyiv's attacks on Russian targets.
Unfortunately, we observed a series of strikes on our energy sites recently and were obliged to respond. I want to emphasize that, even for humanitarian reasons, we did not carry out any strikes in winter. What I mean is that we didn't want to leave social institutions without power, hospitals and the like. But after a series of attacks on our power facilities, we had to respond.
Well, UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi said direct attacks against Zaporizhia nuclear power plant marked a major escalation of the nuclear safety and security dangers in Ukraine. Speaking at the special meeting of the agency's 35-nation board of governors on Thursday, Grossi called for maximum restraint to prevent a nuclear accident and ensure the integrity of the ZNPP. He said Sunday's attack fortunately did not compromise nuclear safety in a serious way, but it would be irresponsible for us to assume future attacks will also not.
On Sunday, direct attacks against the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant marked a major escalation of the nuclear safety and security dangers in Ukraine, significantly increasing the risk of a nuclear accident. The most recent attacks, however, are a clear violation of the principles and have shifted us into an acutely consequential juncture in this war.
Also, UN chief will meet with the UN Security Council next week. And moving on, Ukraine takes action to deal with the acute soldier shortage as its conflict with Russia grinds into its third year. Parliament passed a legislation on Thursday to simplify conscription, aiding an expected mobilization that could press hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men into the battlefield. Ukraine has been suffering setbacks on the battlefield against Russia, a country with 3 times its population. The new measures should increase troop numbers by requiring men to update their draft data with with authorities, boosting payments to those who volunteer and letting some convicts serve. The bill requires President Zelensky's signature to become a law. And South Korea, Japan and the United States staged long-planned joint naval exercises to ensure readiness against nuclear and missile threats from North Korea. The two-day drills held in international waters involved an American aircraft carrier, the USS Theodore Roosevelt, and the destroyers Howard, Russell and Daniel Ione. The South Korean Navy said that during the training, a multi-year joint exercise plan was set up after last year's three-way summit. North Korea has been accelerating weapons development, and leader Kim Jong-un said on Wednesday that now was the time to be more prepared for war than ever. And Peru's Congress approved a controversial proposal that will allow retirees to tap savings accounts that the country's financial regulator estimated could force pension fund administrators to sell some $7 billion in assets. The bill was passed with 96 votes in favor, 5 against and 5 abstentions. Over the past 4 years, lawmakers have approved 6 previous pension fund withdrawals worth some $24 billion in a bid to provide a boost to cash-strapped savers at a time of sluggish economic growth in Peru, once one of South America's star performers. Retirees with pension funds in Peru represent a minority. However, as about 7 out of 10 workers in the country are employed in the informal economy and do not contribute to retirement accounts. Pension fund administrators nonetheless invest around 60% of the savings they manage in local assets, mostly in government bonds. And cases and deaths from the dengue epidemic in Peru have more than tripled in 2024. The number of deaths from dengue fever and suspected cases rose to 117 on the 13th week this year. The authorities have approved an emergency decree with extraordinary economic measures to strengthen the strategy against the epidemic. The figures in Peru are alarming because the ability of the transmitting mosquitoes rose in reaching regions where dengue has not been detected before. Well, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will visit Arizona today, just days after the state's top court reinstated a law from 1864 criminalizing and banning abortions in nearly all circumstances. Abortion has become a central issue in the 2024 elections, and as Tony Waterman explains, the Biden administration is wasting no time in politically capitalizing on this latest extreme ban and laying the blame at Donald Trump's feet.
This trip to Arizona wasn't even on the vice president's schedule late last week, and now it is an official campaign event headlined as a fight for reproductive freedoms. Kamala Harris is visiting Tucson, which is Arizona's second largest city, and while there, she is expected to blast this state Supreme Court decision and blame former President Donald Trump, who appointed the conservative justices to the U.S. Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago, returning abortion access to the states. This 160-year-old law in Arizona, which existed before women had the right to vote and before Arizona was even a state, will be one of the most extreme abortion laws when it is reinstated in about 2 weeks. Doctors will face up to 5 years in prison if they perform an abortion. The only exception is to save the life of the mother, but there are no clear guidelines on what constitutes a medical emergency. And in other states with similar bans, doctors have refused to perform the procedure for fear of breaking the law, and in some cases, that has jeopardized the lives of women. Friday's trip to Arizona will be Harris's second in the span of a month, which is an indication of just how important this state is going to be in the 2024 elections. Out of all the battleground states, Joe Biden won Arizona by the thinnest margin in 2020, and current polls show him trailing behind his Republican rival, Donald Trump. Polls, though, also show that abortion is a top issue for voters, the vast majority of which support abortion access. So Democrats are hoping that this latest ban will galvanize voters, and Kamala Harris's trip is all about doing just that. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
And moving on, Vietnam's real estate tycoon Truong My Lan was given the death penalty by Vietnamese court on Thursday for her involvement in the largest financial scam in the nation's history, which totaled $12.5 billion. Following a trial, the chairperson of real estate developer Van Thin Pat Holdings Group was found guilty of theft, bribery and violations of banking regulations. According to Lan's attorneys, she had entered a not guilty plea to the charges of embezzlement and bribery, whereas she will also file an appeal of the conviction. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Election fever grips India, campaigning in full swing across the country. Notification for third phase to begin today. Seventh round of negotiations for the India-Peru trade agreement took place in New Delhi. And India makes a return to the Cannes Film Festival after 30 years. Payal Kabadia's movie All We Imagine As Light to premiere the competition section.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
We help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
Discover the colors of democracy. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about various subjects pertaining to India's development and the upcoming elections in the interview with an Indian daily newspaper, Hindustan Times. PM Modi said he's committed to taking strict actions against the corrupt. Steps are being taken even in states where BJP is in power. He said that elections are the biggest festival of democracy in India. He further added that even opposition believes that NDA will return to power. Slamming Congress, PM Modi said under BJP model, the priority is to strengthen the country in contrast to Congress model that focused on strengthening their family. He said that 25 crore people have come out of poverty and over 4 crore people have their own houses. He further said that this is just a trailer. Lots more work has to be done. And now let's take a look at the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, notification for the election process on 94 seats in the third phase issued on Friday. Voting in the third phase will be held on the 7th of May. In the third phase, voting will be held for 94 parliamentary constituencies in 12 states and union territories. Starting from today, the last day for filing nomination for the third phase of elections is 19th of April. The seats for which voting is to be held in the third phase include Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Goa, Gujarat, Jammu and Kashmir and others. Also, there will be a separate notification for the adjourned poll in Madhya Pradesh's Betul. Well, election season is at its peak in India, with parties organizing multiple public meetings as the first phase of voting is slated for the 19th of this month. In order to garner support for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held rally in Jammu and Kashmir's Udhampur. Addressing the gathering, PM Modi said that his government fulfilled promise of ending long sufferings of people of Jammu and Kashmir.
सत्ता के लिए इन्होंने जम्मू कश्मीर में 370 की ऐसी दीवार बना दी थी आपके आशीर्वाद से मोदी ने 370 की दीवार गिरा दी। मैं चुनौती देता हूं, हिंदुस्तान की कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी हिम्मत करके आ जाए, विशेष करके मैं कांग्रेस को चुनौती देता हूं, वो घोषणा करे वो 370 को वापस लाएंगे, ये देश उनका मुंह तक देखने को तैयार नहीं होगा।
Later in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also address a public rally in Rajasthan's Barmer and Dausa. And the opposition parties are also going all out to woo the voters. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge will hold election rallies in Kalaburagi and Bidar in his home state Karnataka to seek support for its candidates, while Rahul Gandhi will attend a public meeting in Tamil Nadu on Friday. Bahujan Samaj Party leader Mayawati will also campaign in Uttarakhand's Haridwar. Addressing a public rally on Thursday, Mayawati accused Congress of not implementing public welfare schemes during its government before 2014. And as the election preparedness gaining momentum, a significant deployment of security personnel in Marwa and Warwan areas of Kishtwar district in Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday, jointly by District Election Office and Indian Air Force. In a unique voter awareness initiative, scuba divers in Chennai dove into the sea, enacting the voting process 60 feet under the water. And the Indian Army conducted a training exercise of anti-tank guided missile firing at a super high altitude area in Sikkim. Missile firing detachments from mechanized and infantry units of the entire Eastern Command participated in the training exercise. The training exercise encompassed comprehensive continuity, training and live firing from different platforms on moving as well as static targets depicting battlefield conditions. And India and Uzbekistan exhibits their combat power and dominance in the joint military exercises. The 5th edition of joint military exercise, thus Thilik, between India and Uzbekistan to be conducted at Termez district, Uzbekistan. The joint exercise stages a platform where the two armies hands to share and learn tactics. The 15 days exercise primarily aims at exchanging operational knowledge while enhancing interoperability between the armies of the two nations. And after a long wait of around 3 decades, an Indian movie would play at the upcoming 77th Cannes Film Festival. Writer-director Payal Kabadia's All We Imagine As Light will premiere in the competition sector. Kabadia had previously won the Golden Eye Award for Best Documentary at the 2021 Cannes Film Festival for her documentary A Night of Knowing Nothing. A joint production of India and France, the movie will be competing against Iranian filmmaker Ali Abbasi's The Apprentice, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, and Yorgos Lanthimos's Kind of Kindness. Well, the 7th round of negotiations for the India-Peru trade agreement took place in New Delhi, India from April 8th to April 11th. The discussions involved understanding priorities and concerns of each other and ensuring that the negotiations are rooted in mutual respect and benefit. In this round of negotiations, discussions encompassed across the chapters which included trade in goods, trade in services, movement of natural persons, rules of origin, technical barriers to trade and others. Around 60 delegates together from both sides participated in the negotiations. In the last 2 decades, the trade between India and Peru has increased from $65 million in 2003 to around $3.68 billion in 2023. The trade agreement under negotiations shall play a pivotal role in future collaboration in various sectors, creating avenues for mutual benefit and advancement. The next round expected in June 2024 to ensure that outstanding issues are resolved before the two parties meet again. And BRS leader K. Kavita brought to Delhi's Rouse Avenue court for hearing in connection with the money laundering case. CBI told the court that Kavita had an important role to play in ensuring kickbacks amounting to over 100 crore rupees to Aam Aadmi Party. The agency, which took her into its custody on Thursday, demanded 5-day remand. She is already under judicial custody in a money laundering case being probed by the Enforcement Directorate. And acting on the Calcutta High Court's order, the CBI on Thursday created a dedicated email ID for people to register complaints of crimes against women and land grabbing in Sandesh Khali in North 24 Parganas district of West Bengal. The court on Wednesday ordered a court-monitored CBI probe into the alleged incidents. The court also directed the district magistrate of North 24 Parganas to give adequate publicity of the email ID. And the National Investigation Agency of India has detained 2 suspects from West Bengal in connection with the blast at cafe in India's Rameshwaram. The suspects have been identified as Abdul Mateen Taha and Musafir Hussain Shajib in IED cafe blast that injured many. Early morning of Friday, NIA successfully traced the absconding accused near Kolkata, where they were hiding under false identities. An Indian Air Force saved its army personnel's hand who severed while operating machinery at a forward unit location in Ladakh. IAF special aircraft was launched within an hour to move the personnel at the R&R hospital in India's Delhi, where he received medical attention promptly. And in business news, Asian equities were in a subdued mood on Friday as investors pondered the path for Federal Reserve interest rate cuts amid a murky U.S. inflation outlook. Gold rose to a fresh all-time peak after a mild reading for producer price. Inflation kept alive hopes for Fed easing this year, though U.S. Treasury yields stuck close to 5-month highs in the wake of hotter-than-expected consumer price data midweek that forced a paring back of rate cut bets. The dollar hung near a 5-month high following a nearly 1% gain this week against a basket of major peers. And the Indian women's tennis team beat Chinese Taipei 2-1 in its third Billie Jean King Cup 2024 Asia-Oceania Group 1 tie in Changsha, China on Thursday. Rutuja Bhosale won the singles double, while the duo of Prarthana Thumbare and Ankita Raina prevailed in the doubles contest. India is currently placed third in Pool A, following 2 wins and a loss in 3 outings. In IPL, Lucknow Super Giants will take on Delhi Capitals on Friday in March 26th of the Indian Premier League 2024 in Lucknow. Lucknow Super Giants have made a flying start to their IPL 2024 campaign, winning 3 out of the first 4 matches. Their only loss came in the season opener. In stark contrast, the Delhi Capitals are languishing at the bottom of the points table. They have won just 1 out of their 5 matches so far. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.
As India decides in the world's largest election.
We help you feel the pulse of the